There was a big topic that Branson asked me to cover. It's been going on for 2 weeks, and that's why I really didn't cover it. Me, I like to get opinions on new shit and get it out there before 1,000 other people cover it. But I got to touch on this Umar Johnson Eminem thing, because there's been a lot I wanted to say about it that I just really haven't heard other people touch on, some of the topics in regards to it. But Umar Johnson was on the Joe Budden podcast. Somehow, some way, he said Eminem could never be the GOAT because he's white. And you can't anoint somebody outside of the culture as the king of the culture. To which I agree with Umar. And since then, a whole lot of niggas came. Yo, I heard Ed Lover today defending Eminem, and it's just weird. It's always weird to see a bunch of niggas come out the woodworks to defend Eminem. And for the record, I was a huge Eminem fan in the late 90s. I had my underground backpacker phase. So 97, 98, I started getting into underground hip hop because of the internet. And I loved that moment. And that's how I found Eminem. He was on one of the websites. His music was there. Real Player, that ruled the late 90s. So I remember getting put on to a lot of dope artists then, and Eminem was one of them. I was a huge fan. And then a year later, he signed with Dr. Dre. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Bought the Slim Shady EP, had the Slim Shady LP when he released on Aftermath. And then I also had the Marshall Mathers LP, which I think was Eminem's best album. And then after that, the Eminem show, I didn't really like it. Encore, I didn't even fuck with it. And I'm going to be honest, for the past 20 years, Eminem has released bullshit. And that's how I've always felt about Eminem. I liked his music at first. I was a huge fan of his freestyles and all the shit, the underground shit he did. But then when he went mainstream, a lot of his music was silly, and it was more geared towards, preteen white kids than, his original fan base. But back to Umar Johnson on the Joe Budden podcast. I think the fact that we would even bring Eminem up as a GOAT confirms the amount of white supremacy in hip-hop. Because Eminem's discography, by no means at all, makes him a GOAT. This dude, like I said, has not dropped a dope album in over 20-something years. And he's not really made a song that was his that I really felt in about 20 years. He's dropped a verse here and there on a guest appearance or something. Well, yeah, that's dope. But that's been my mentality towards Eminem. I just find it funny that we would even bring his name up as a GOAT when his discography itself is just not. Let's talk about the contenders for GOATs. Rakim, KRS-One, Jay-Z, Nas. I'll even go Black Thought from The Roots, LL, If you look at the discographies of all the people I mentioned, Scarface also, Scarface, Ice Cube, I'm just naming names. All these discographies are 1,000 times better than Eminem's. The fact that we would even bring his name into the discussion kind of lets you know how white supremacy is kind of pushed it in there. I acknowledge the fact that Eminem is a skilled MC, and to his credit, I do feel he did grow up in the culture. I don't really see him as a culture vulture. He was there, he lived it. Lots and lots of black folks have co-signed him. But the one thing I'm not cool with is all these niggas who jump out the woodworks all the time to defend him. Because we don't get that same leeway when we try to venture into other genres of music. The example I would use is Lil Nas X. You remember back when Old Town Road came out and we thought he was a heterosexual? Well, there was a point where he wanted to perform Old Town Road at the CMAs, the Country Music Awards. And they minced no words about it. They were just like, Lil Nas X cannot perform here because he's not country enough to, perform at our shit. And so, Billy Ray Cyrus came in and did the little remix with him to try and make it more countrified, which is the equivalent to a black rapper hopping on an Eminem song to add more credibility to it. But even with that going on, they were still like, nah, your black ass can't perform at the CMAs. And they're very protective of their culture. And here we are trying to anoint a goat to somebody whose discography has been pretty whack for the past 20 years. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like the energy isn't the same. We're trying to fucking give this nigga our entire culture. And here's the fucked up thing about country music. Black people started country music. You know, I could get into the history because I did read it before I started singing this. I'm not just one of those niggas that say, oh, black people started shit. No, I read the history on country music. So we have had a major influence on what country music is, and they've made it a point to keep us out of it. And to be fair, nobody black is really pressed over trying to get into country music. I also read there were only 3 black people in the Country Hall of Fame. So country music's been around for well over 100 years. And there's only 3 black people in there. One of them's Ray Charles. And the other's Charlie Pride. Oh, I don't know who the third one is, so you got to Google that shit. But the point I'm trying to make is they work very hard to keep our asses out of their culture. But we work very hard to bring them into our culture. Eminem doesn't need defending. He's the richest, he's the most sold, he's the rapper with the most sales of all time. You know, with that being said, I don't really understand why everybody comes out the woodworks to defend him. He's not somebody who necessarily needs to be defended. And to be perfectly honest with you, one of the reasons why people get at Eminem so hard is because of the accolades and the lack of credible music. Because you look at other white artists and they release good shit. I mean, you look at Robin Thicke. He's dropped some music we can play at the barbecue. You know, we be bumping Lost Without You and that joint he did with Faith Evans, you know, and John B. You know, we bump John B. We fuck with John B. We fucked with Tina Marie. This has never been about not letting white people do their thing. It's always been that way. If you come into this shit and you rep it and you release good music, we support you. It's always been that way. And the beef with Eminem is you come into this game, you know, you dropped a couple hits. I ain't gonna sit here and say you never dropped hot shit, but most of your music is not relatable to your black fans. You know, a lot of black people don't want to hear that rabbity rap, miracle, lyrical shit. I know I used to enjoy it, but now I realize, man, I can enjoy it and appreciate it on 1 or 2 songs. But if you got a whole album with lyrical, miracle, spiritual, it makes me realize you don't really have anything to say, and that takes away from it. But I don't have a problem with Eminem being in hip-hop. I have a problem with people trying to even bring him into the GOAT discussion. Keep in mind, we created rock and roll, and Elvis is considered the king of the music we created. Now, black people such as me and, you know, people that have lived this and seen Eminem, we're not going to be around forever. We're not going to be around forever to tell the truth. And that's another issue I kind of have with this Eminem GOAT thing. 100 years from now, 120 years from now, the story of Eminem is going to change. You know what I'm saying? We as black people, we know where he is in hip-hop. But you know what white folks do. 100, 120 years from now, when we're all dead and stinking and there's nobody to tell the real story, you know what they're going to do. Eminem's a pioneer of hip-hop. He brought so much stuff, blah, blah, blah. He's the king of rap. You know that's what they're going to do. He's the king of rap, just like Elvis was the king of rock. And to be fair, this is not Eminem's fault. I'm not going to sit here and blame Eminem and say, oh, Eminem, you're the reason all this is going down. Because it's not Eminem's fault. If it were Eminem's fault, I'm pretty sure if it were up to Eminem, he would probably, find a way to say the truth. Like, hey, this is who I was. This is who influenced me. But you know how white folks go. They're going to throw that away and just crown him the king of hip-hop, the greatest to do it. He's a founder, a pioneer of this genre. He gave birth and light to so many hip-hop artists. And then all the artists that influenced him, they're going to flip the script and say he influenced those artists. You know how they do. So that's always been kind of my issue. And to be fair, like I mentioned before, this is beyond Eminem. This is not something he can do or say to like end it. This is a system in effect that constantly downplays the contributions of African Americans and upplays the contributions from non-African Americans. So I tend to agree with Umar, but like I said, it's just weird that we would even bring his name into the GOAT discussion. I don't question his skills. I don't question his talent. I know he can rap. His production sucks, you know. He's not a good producer. But, you know, I give him props for him being who he is and just representing. But, yeah, I would never in a million years consider him the GOAT of anything. I don't even think he's the best white rapper, to be honest. Who else do I like over Eminem? I'd throw in R.A. the Rugged Man, Paul Wall. Who else? Milkbone. Whatever happened to Milkbone? He dropped that one album, Stay Real, or that one song, Keep It Real, or Stay Real. I forgot what it was. And we've never heard him again. But yeah, I like them too. LP, he's cool. You know, I'm at a point now where I've just been disappointed in him, and I've expected so much more from him, and he's constantly kind of let me down on a personal level. But it is what it is.